Let's talk about the pro-Palestinian movement and the anti-Israel and anti-Jewish hatred that is escalating around the world now. Incredibly, this upsurge in support for the cause of Hamas, the cause of establishing for the first time a Palestinian nation from the river to the sea, that is, by obliterating Israel, well, incredibly, this upsurge in support has been triggered by the vicious, cruel and sadistic slaughter of more than 1,200 Israelis on October the 7th and the capture, torture, rape and murder of about 250 hostages, with more than 100 of them remaining unaccounted for. Let that reality rest in your mind for a while. Hamas unleashes that sort of grotesque violence, and it sparks an upsurge of support from people around the world. Just have a look at this clip with music of supporters posting pro-Palestinian graffiti. Now, where do you reckon that was happening? Ramallah in the West Bank? Perhaps Rafah in Gaza itself? Or maybe it was in another Arab nation like Syria or Libya, where people are opposed to the very existence of Israel? No, it was in Sydney. They are Sydney University students. Yeah, isn't that cute? The Students for Palestine at Sydney University. Talk about the blind leading the blind. Do these fools even know what they're dabbling in? How do you think they would fare under Hamas? What with their sexual liberation, their equality between men and women, their tolerance of gays, their consumption of alcohol, their professed belief in freedom of expression and freedom of religion? How long would they last espousing those values in Gaza or Rafah or Ramallah, for that matter? This is as absurd as it is disturbing. These people are preaching support for some imaginary state of Palestine and hatred for Israel as some sort of badge of honour for progressive politics, as some sort of virtue signalling motif to demonstrate that they are radicals railing against the establishment. You know, their grandparents protested against the Vietnam War, so they'll pick this tinderbox of religious extremism and ethno-religious violence as their little plaything. And they'll pretend Israel is the transgressor here. They'll pretend the Jews are the problem. Better people than me would say we should forgive them, for they know not what they do. Last night they pulled on a sit-in of sorts at the university to demonstrate their wokeness.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm one of the conveners of Students for Palestine. I'm here on the first night of the Sydney Uni Gaza Solidarity Encampment. We've set up tents to occupy the quad lawns to stand in solidarity with Gaza and stand against the genocide in our university's complicity and ties with weapons companies that fund Israeli genocide. Come by tomorrow to show your support and join the occupation for Gaza.
Look, it's tempting just to laugh at this stuff, right? But they are playing with fire. They are playing with one of the oldest hatreds of all, anti-Semitism. And in the US, as we've been following all week, this stuff has become so bad that Jewish students just cannot attend classes any longer. And it's getting worse.
Overnight, tensions boiling over as pro-Palestinian protests spread to more college campuses from coast to coast.
You have been warned by New York University to leave the area.
Police in riot gear dismantling this encampment at New York University, arresting multiple people accused of ignoring a deadline to disperse. Police and the school describing disorderly, disruptive, and antagonizing behavior that has interfered with the safety and security of our community. Earlier, faculty members formed this human chain around the protesters.
Yeah, this is a threat to open society. This is a threat to civil society, an open threat to Jewish people, and an open threat to the American and Western values of liberalism, plurality, and tolerance.
There were people outside of campus one time with signs that said "Death to all Jews." That is awful, and nobody should be having to experience that on their campus.
A big-name donor, New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, now pulling support for the university. Kraft saying, "I'm no longer confident that Columbia can protect its students and staff." Overnight, Columbia announcing classes for the rest of the semester will be hybrid, a combination of in-person and remote due to the security concerns. Yesterday at Yale, dozens of arrests for protests there, and across the country in California, the campus of Cal Poly Humboldt is closed as pro-Palestinian protesters overnight barricaded themselves inside a building.
Just terrible. And back in Australia, the gormless students at Sydney University are unashamedly replicating this hatred. They are simply and openly copycatting this stuff.
I'm Jacob from Students for Palestine. We're here at USyd on day 2 of the encampment for Gaza. This has been inspired by the students at Columbia.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza!
This encampment is going to go for as long as we can hold it, so we need you to come down right now to the USyd quad lawn.
One of the most prestigious universities in this country, run by the bloke who used to run the ABC. Liberal values, the contest of ideas, tolerance and Australian values are being trashed in favour of an almost comical interpretation of Middle Eastern affairs. A pathetic portrayal of Israel as a colonial power over the indigenous Palestinians. Not for them the inconvenient reality that Jews have lived in what is now Israel for thousands of years, long before Islam was even conceived. Not for them the inconvenient reality that Gaza ran its own affairs for more than a decade leading up to October the 7th, while receiving billions of dollars in aid that it squandered on weapons and terrorist tunnels. Not for them the inconvenient reality of endless terror attacks against Israelis and indiscriminate rocket barrages or the unprovoked atrocities of October the 7th. No, our students, supposedly our best and brightest, ignore the facts, ignore the horrors of terrorism and inflame the age-old hatred of anti-Semitism. All of this only fans the flames of extremism and it plays into the terrorists' aims. Useful idiots. Our universities are full of them and they're tearing at the fabric of our society.